Good afternoon, everybody. Al Getler here. Welcome back to Al Getler Live. Absolutely a pleasure to have you here today. Got a great guest lined up for you. The New Year's here. It's the 12th. Looking at my computer there, it's the 12th. How you doing on those resolutions, huh? Did you keep them going? Go ahead and tell me in the comments if you are keeping going. I don't do resolutions. I try to sit down at the end of the year, evaluate what the year has been, and what I'd like to see happen the following year. And then just set some goals for myself and try to maintain those goals and keep at them. And I think that's better than a resolution. It's tough, man. Resolutions always feel like you're setting yourself up for just a tiny little bit of failure. So anyway, tell me in the comments how that's going. Also, I'd like to give you the weather report here in northwestern Vermont, just south of the Canadian border. Let me look out the window. Shockingly, it's cloudy and cold and snowing a little bit. So there you go. That's the weather forecast from Vermont. Anyway, listen, we have a lot going on in the world today. Let's focus on you. Today, we're going to talk about a subject that I think is really, really key and important. And that is our voice. I'm using it right now. You use it every day, whether you're on the phone or you're selling or you're leading a group of people. Voice and voice inflection, so important. Our guest today is going to help us out with that. So right on the other side of the countdown, we're going to have my guest join us. Stand by. Here we go. So I remember I had somebody tell me once, boy, if I had a voice like yours, I would change my outgoing voicemail every day. That was back when the outgoing voicemail at your office desk was something. And, you said, hi, this is Al Getler. I'm not here today. I'm out of the office I'm in the office or whatever the case may be. Yeah. And I thought, how that's funny because I never thought I had, such a great voice. But, I guess since I am actually a performer, as some of you know, I'm a ventriloquist and a comedian in addition to all my work in media and all that stuff. Voice for ventriloquist, pretty important. So this guest that we have today is going to take us through some voice stuff. Before I bring him on, though, I'll tell you what I want to do. I want to play you a little bit of his voice at work. Give me a second. I'm going to share my screen and show you a bit of his sizzle reel. Sizzle reel. Try that again. Here we go.
The barbecue Stacticon has a deeper connection to man than anyone realizes.
And so is there anyone here who thinks Cindy and Ronald should not be joined in matrimony? Speak now or forever hold your
Personal pop-up plasmas at every seat with over 300 satellite channels at my fingertips and enough legroom to stretch out and enjoy all of it. But over the years, I've been crawled over, dripped on, splashed up, hidden under, and so I've seen it all.
Hey guys, move up, we're next to leave the show.
We're the Coca-Cola cans that chill quickly, always refreshing, and we've got that group appeal. The Barking Fish. Weird name, good restaurant.
So you hear his voice, super impressive voice. I'm jealous. Let me bring on my guest, Daya Ottley. Hey, Daya, how are you, man?
Hey, Al, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Listen, it's a pleasure.
I was wondering if you had a second guest with that hype. I was like, Alan told me he had somebody else coming.
Well, let me introduce the very humble Daya Ottley. There you go. Good. I should have said humble in front of your name. So, man, just a great voice. I mean, just an awesome voice. And we'll get into that in a minute. First of all, Daya, I like folks to know we have friends, you and I, all over the world. Where are you talking to me from today?
I am talking to you from Trinidad and Tobago, the wonderful twin island of Trinidad and Tobago. I am based in Trinidad right now. It's beautiful weather. I'm looking out my window, and it's really nice weather. Sorry, Al.
Well, no. Hey, listen. All right, I can kind of argue that point. I live on an island as well. Okay. And do you look out and see white sand beaches out your window? Is that what you're seeing? White sand?
No, I'm sorry. I'm not that fortunate to see white sand.
Okay, but you got in your car, you drive for a minute, and you can see that, right?
No, I have to drive for a few minutes before I see white sand.
Because I look out here and I see white too. I just pretend it's sand, but it's actually
snow.
So Daya, tell me, man, you are this the voice man, and how did you? Obviously, your voice has a lot to do with, but how did you get into this? How did you realize you had something special going on with your voice? And give us a little bit of your background, if you wouldn't mind.
So Al, for me, I started off as like an ordinary kid in my home and just grabbing anything I could and pretending it was a mic and talking into it. In those days, I had a double cassette recorder. And I don't know if many people know about those, but you had one side with a cassette and another side with a cassette. And I would record music off the radio. And then I had a mic on it too. So I'd actually produce my own little podcast in those days. I mean, that's like early 80s. But and I would actually produce that and just play it back for the fun of it. And, since after that, just growing up, I would always be inclined to doing things with voice. And fast forward years later, I found myself involved in media and I found myself pursuing voiceover acting. And yeah, because in Trinidad, I mean, I got into it and it was not like because I pursued it, it really just came upon me. Someone said, you have a good voice. And I did some training.
Right.
And like everybody would know, anything that's small. I'm in an island and there's only so much you could grow after you've done ads in your country. And so I pursued training in Los Angeles. Hooked up with some people there. And I could say after that, the rest is history. I really continue to pursue it. I'm still doing training with coaches in Los Angeles, never stops. And I definitely hope, who knows, one day you might hear my voice on an animation or something.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah, and it's a great voice. So let's start with that. But I have to laugh. You said you did the cassette recorder thing. I did the same thing in my basement when I was a kid. I swear to God, I still have the tapes out in my storage across the street. It's really funny that we play with our voices, do that. But I imagine then the voice was probably somewhere up here where today you've got that really commanding deep voice, and it's a wonderful voice. So outside of doing voiceover work, though, you came to the conclusion that we all have a voice and that we all can do something with a voice. So tell me a bit about the work you're doing with people when it comes to voice. And then when you're done with that, I'll play a quick reel from promotion that talks a bit about your business. I mean, obviously I want to promote your business, but I want to also help the folks who are tuned in today using voice and help them see what they can do, what the capabilities can be. But tell us a story. How did you get into becoming a voice communication expert?
Right. So, of course, doing voiceover acting and training, I did that. I did broadcasting, media. I read news in my country as well. And I did training with all of those aspects. And I had a friend one day who said, you do so well with voice. Can you help me? I said, well, you want to get into voiceover acting? And they're like, no, not voiceover acting, like talking. And I said, well, dude, I don't think I'm the guy, but I said, let me try. And I put together a program and I saw the results. I actually thought about it. And after that, it was like, this makes a lot of sense. Who does this? I don't think anybody trains people. I know there's public speaking, but I like to differentiate voice communication from public speaking. Public speaking focuses on, you standing in front of an audience and speaking to the public. But this is just you using your voice for any purpose at any time. And so I decided to put together programming, do a lot of research, bring all of my over 20 years of experience, and I have designed and created and packaged something called voice communication. Because I'm sure you would be in so many meetings where you'd have a guy come to present or sell something. They have so much head knowledge, but then they would be, so for just $55, you can get this for, and it would be really, you'll be scratching your head, looking at your phone.
Right.
And so
you just reminded me of the teacher in Ferris Bueller in front of the classroom, right?
Exactly. I know.
What do we call that?
Okay.
Voodoo what? Voodoo economics.
And there are many people like that, actually, unfortunately. They're from CEOs, go right down to your average salesperson. And
By
so
the way,
I thought,
that was Ben Stein, by the way, that we're talking about.
Ben Stein,
And
that's
I
right.
met
And
him in
he,
the airport 2 years ago in Charlotte.
okay,
So just want to throw that in there. So,
yeah,
like I interrupted you, but, you make a point, and that is that, the voice is not just the actor like you on a commercial or on an animated, you know, um,
feature or
cartoon,
anything.
or, in these days, animation runs from drama to comedy and cartoon. It's not only that, but, you say too in your bio, whether you're a business leader, a CEO, or a sales rep. And that captivated me because as you said, when you go through listening to someone who doesn't have the cadence of speaking, it can really almost ruin a sale, can it not?
Yeah, and it has to do with everybody has a different background, Al. I mean, and it's so everyone will have different complications, I'd call it, in speech. Either you may speak too softly because of lack of confidence, or just because of what you're exposed to. Your whole family probably whispered, and maybe because there were neighbors around and everybody said, shh, you'll make up the neighbor. Or people speak too quickly, because I've met people who they just want to finish their thought, and so they speak so quickly and then they trip over their mouth and nobody understands them. It could be people who have this flatline monotone, who like Ben Stein, who just talk like that, whatever it may be. And so I thought of the reality is that research shows that the human brain responds to spikes in your decibels, in your volume, in your communication. So if someone just talks in a flat way, in a flat tone, and keeps talking, people get distracted. But if I raise my voice and I talk differently and I use my tone to really express, it makes people awake and keeps
Yeah.
people in tune.
Yeah.
So that research, I mean, doing my research, it's a fact. So then if you have to pitch a sale, you might not be the best person in terms of knowledge of your product, but
Mhm.
if you can sell it and everybody's glued, it's like, sure, sign me up. That's just with sales, but it comes in so many different ways. Speeches at a function and an awards function.
Yeah.
I've heard
Yeah.
so many executives give speeches and they don't space it out. They don't raise their volume to captivate the audience. They don't start with a joke to make people laugh and
Yeah.
relax.
Yeah. 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 So
So,
important.
yeah.
As a performer, when I was hired to come in and do corporate banquets, annual banquets, I would often be the cleanup to the CEO's yearly address, right, at that meeting. And gosh, you're right, Daya. There are some times when I was backstage going, oh, this person just doesn't get it. And then there are times when I was behind, the curtain, and I want, whoa, I have
Yeah.
to follow this lady. Oh my God,
Yeah.
give me a break, because there's no way I can bring her energy level on stage with me, And then when I caught my breath, I'd say, no, this is great. This is my job is now to hit the stage with that same energy level. So I get what you're saying. You say in some of your material, voice modulation, intonation, expression, and emotion. So can you break that down for me? First of all, what is voice modulation?
So voice modulation is the rise and fall of your voice. If you are talking, you want to be able to modulate your voice. It's making sure you manage like an equalizer. You could rise and fall. If you are too flat, then you're not modulating your voice. So it's important to make sure that you can modulate properly. So that's important.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then we also talk about intonation. So tell me, what is intonation?
Right. So intonation would be the emphasis you have on a certain word. So if I say, I want to say, hey, Al, it's great to be here with you. It's an emphasis I'm putting on something. I'm intonating in it. So you want to make sure that you do that. And it's good to teach the difference between the wide breadth of modulation, but then there's specific things you want to intonate, like that I did there. So especially with voiceover acting, you learn that there are certain words to bring alive. So that's what you do with your voice. Intonation, inflection, it's
Yeah.
important. So
And
somebody, in other words,
I'm
sorry.
sorry, go ahead, please.
No, I was just going to say, so modulation is a broad way of speaking, but then if you can intonate but not modulate. So I can be talking like this all the time, like Ben Stein, and then I intonate. and I
Right.
continue. I'm not modulating. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, you used the word great before, and I always think about, did you have the Frosted Flakes commercial in Trinidad growing up?
Yeah, of
They're
course.
great, you know.
Yeah. That's a good example of intonation. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, that's it. Really came to mind. And then expression, of course, which is that same thing. They're great. I mean, that's an expression, but tell us what
Yeah.
expression is by your definition.
An expression would definitely be how someone would take something and make it their own and
Yeah.
put life inside of it. So put some expression, and a lot of it has to do with our face. Our face definitely helps with our tone. We not know how someone say, I'm really happy, and show happiness and joy with a serious face. You have to have expression. I am so happy to be on the show with you today, Al. It's amazing. It's just great. So you must have expression in how you speak. It comes through your voice. That's why they always say to you when you're doing, and you would know, put a smile on your face when you're reading this.
Yeah.
If you want joy to come out, you cannot put the joy by having a serious face.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
So expression is very key.
And then emotion. If you can just
Well, emotion is all about feeling. So it's good for people to know if you and this is a good example. I looked at CNN all the time, and there's a particular guy, I don't know if he's still there. His name is Martin Savage. Martin Savage was used to cover events, particularly that were of a solemn nature. And what stands out in my mind with Martin Savage is someone was being basically going to meet their death in the prisons. And he was covering this very somber moment. And Martin communicated the emotion and the mood. He was talking and saying, right around us, we can see the family behind. They are all really looking tearful right now. You don't want someone who can't capture that emotion. Okay, so right now the family's behind us. They're crying for the death of this person, and we can't believe it. No, so you have to be in tune with the emotion in whatever circumstance. You need to be aware of it, and you need to know how to translate the knowledge in your head to your voice, because you can know that you need to be serious when you're talking to your staff. Or you need to know how to have compassion in your tone as a CEO who's always very uptight. Okay, that was a good job, and continue doing a great job. Excellent, James. Excellent. But you want to be able to say, hey, James, excellent job. Keep doing a great job. Really proud of you. Yeah. So it's good to show emotion and be aware of it.
And give some thought to how you express that.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I'm going to show your reel in a second here, but I'll point out to the audience before I do that. You mention reading stories to children, which I love that you bring that up, because my wife and I are competitive people. And we had a late in life little baby who's now 18 years old. And we are dedicated readers to our kids. We always have been. But we used to just laugh at who read what story, or Shel Silverstein, better than the other, and who did the voices of the. But the point being that I love that you mentioned that in this reel. So let me go ahead and share that right now. It talks a bit about your work, gives you a chance to get yourself a sip of water, and we'll go ahead and share your reel with folks here at home.
Do you find yourself tripping over your words often? Do people often tell you, slow down because you're talking too fast and unclear? When you have that big presentation to make, do you feel like you're drowning in anxiety? When you need to have that important conversation, and then suddenly you feel very small. But what about that feeling you get when you need to read the storybook for the little one? Hi, I'm Daya Ottley, and with over 20 years of experience as a voice professional, I want to introduce you to Vocalize. Vocalize equips you with the tools you need to communicate more effectively. For more about what Vocalize has to offer you, check us out at vocalize.us. Uncover the potential of your voice.
That's a great promo reel. I absolutely love it. Tell us a bit about what Vocalize is and how we can reach out to you about Vocalize.
Yeah, so Vocalize is now my official company. Actually, that I'm no longer have that site operating. I forgot that, but people can go to Vocalize Us on Facebook. That's very active, and Vocalize Us is really it's a company that is for training people. So I started it after I told you about my friend, and it's actually taken off quite well, Al. And the same group that we met in, I got so many different contacts, and now I'm training people in the US as well as in Trinidad and Tobago. And it's been an amazing journey. I have companies set up. I can do groups, and anybody literally Vocalize is set up to train people now. Specifically, I customize things to train people in different areas. And it's definitely something new. So people are not aware. They're like, what is voice communication? What's it about? But you hit it directly. You know exactly what it's all about. And that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's great stuff. And I think there's a subject you mentioned you're teaching now, which brings us to where we presently are, what we're doing right now, what people are doing every single day. We are on a live stream, a Zoom, a Google Meet, a Microsoft Teams. Tell me, what are the biggest mistakes that people make when it comes to voice being on these video services that all of us now need to be expert at in order to do business today?
So one of the big things, Al, is, well, two, it's kind of connected, is that one is technical and one would be naturally using your voice. The technical is that you should have a good mic. So if you notice, for me, I'm using a lapel mic. A lot of people would tend to use their mic from their laptop, which is not bad. I'm not saying no. But what happens if it's so far away, people tend to drop their voice because you're sitting all the time. You get naturally comfortable. And once you're sitting, your voice drops, you're relaxed mentally. And so for me, engaging with you, even though I'm sitting, I'm still raising my voice. You as well, because you have the training as well, Al. But for many people in meetings, especially if it's a long, your voice drops, your tone, you mumble, and you're not articulate at all. So the biggest thing is being aware of speaking up, probably even more than if you were in a face-to-face meeting, because around the conference table you could just kind of whisper and people would hear. But with technology, you need to actually enunciate and raise your voice. Sit up straight, have a good posture, take a deep breath, and talk and be engaged, because that happens. People are not accustomed to it. And so one, you don't hear clearly because people have the laptop far away, unplug their mic, and it's like, okay, who's next? And nobody's really hearing you clearly. So I've been in those meetings and I've seen people, and it's distracting. And more so if you are a low speaker and you don't have proper technology, it's very frustrating. Then you have background noises and people are not aware. Stay in a quiet room so there are no distractions, no noises, and that kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think have a great connection too, which you have here today in our conversation. So important, right? You've got to have a good connection. If you're not hardwired, you have to be at the best possible Wi-Fi location you can be, because if I do it, that's the voice.
Me, I actually thought you started to break up. I was like, that's kind of funny, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it's just people have to think about this. I have a microphone here. I'll hold up.
Yeah, a Yeti.
It is a Blue Yeti. Okay. You can order it on Amazon. It costs $150 or around that neighborhood. Okay.
It's a good investment for these times, man.
Oh, man, it's an awesome investment. It's got a modulator on it. It's got kind of everything you need to work. And to me, it's almost like, why would someone whose livelihood depends on being a Zoom as much as so many people's livelihoods do not invest in something like this? So
I don't know why.
yeah. And the lapel, I thought about the lapel too. So that's a great tip.
Yeah.
But I love what you just said, Daya. You and I are on the same page when it comes to all those things. Sitting up straight. My good friend Michael Hyatt often says we have three phases, especially as leaders, as salespeople. There's on stage, there's backstage, and then there's off stage, which is your home, you're relaxing, you're doing whatever, right? But when you're on stage and when you're off stage, both, you've got to be prepared. You've got to be ready for showtime. because off stage just simply means you're one step away from being on stage. And so really, really important. And that voice inflection is so important. I want to just put this on the bottom of the screen again, folks. If you've got questions or comments, by all means, go to your social media. If you're watching us on LinkedIn or Facebook Live or YouTube Live, go ahead and ask a question, and we'll answer that while Daya is here. And so, Daya, I want to move on to something else. You have some pretty exciting news for everybody. So I'm going to put the slide up here, the overlay on it, and go ahead and make your big announcement. Let me just make one quick change so you've got the whole thing there, and go ahead and tell everybody what's happening.
I just wanted to say I'm announcing the start of my brand new podcast, The Core Factor, and it's being launched right here on your show, Al, and definitely it's going to air tomorrow, but I'm announcing it first right here, the launch of my very first podcast, episode 1, The Core Factor. So folks can look out for that. And it's going to be a lot of interesting things, going to be focusing on people who have that inner resolve in life. Not any big popular superheroes, they're unsung heroes, so to speak. But we're going to be just having very short chats with them about what decisions they made in life in terms of the core. One thing that I tell people with my voice voice communication is that apart from all the skills that I teach, one fact is that if you don't see yourself properly, if you don't value yourself, if you see yourself as a failure, or you've been told in life to not speak up, and there's a lack of confidence in yourself, you may speak well off stage or on stage, I should say. You could go on stage and open your mouth, but when you're put in a quiet environment, there's not much to be said, and you're shy and whatever the case may be. And there are people like that, and you have to be confident. Some people hate to stand up and speak up in an audience or answer questions. It's something I tell people when I did my workshops. I'd say there are two of the biggest fears that people have in life, and the first fear that people have in life is standing in front of an audience. The second is death. So it means, therefore, that at a funeral, you'd rather prefer to be in the coffin than be standing up giving the eulogy. So that's something to think about, people.
I love it. That's great. And then there are people like you and I who will give a eulogy anytime someone asks us to,
That's right.
whether I knew the guy or not. We'll...
So
that's funny.
Yeah, people need to consider themselves and think about, there's no need to be afraid of your voice. Some people have a voice note on WhatsApp. They're afraid to play it back. They hate to hear the sound of their own voice. You need to love your voice, love the sound of it. That's the only way we can learn how to grow. So this focuses on people who don't really care, not shy or ashamed of themselves, and they progress. Business people, ordinary entrepreneurs, whatever it may be. So my podcast is going to celebrate that factor.
So I'll ask you this too, and I know this is something everybody hates to do, but if I have listened to you today and I say to myself, okay, I want to take some action on my voice. Let me go back to my notes here. I want to work on my modulation, my intonation, my expression, and my emotion. I'm going to start by recording myself. Okay. Everybody hates that, right? When you play that back, you go, oh, that's not what I sound like. Oh, that's not me. It is. Give us 3 tips when it comes to listening to that recording. What can we listen for? What kind of, quick corrections can you help us make if we do that painful thing to ourselves?
So the first thing is then, put aside your concern about how you sound. You have to put aside that feeling of, I don't like how I sound. You need to stop that. And just embrace the fact that you have a good voice. So that's the first thing. Do that. The second thing is then ask other people what they think about what you hear when you play it back. You would be surprised. It's like a lot of times we hear so many things that other people don't. Get feedback from close friends first, who you trust their opinion and you really value what they say. Ask them, what do you think about my voice? And then based on that feedback, you can then literally listen to your voice and say, if I was sitting down, and particularly if you record yourself, try and record yourself like reading something or making a speech. Just stand up in front of your mirror and record. And when you do that, say, if I were listening to myself. Like if I'm a salesperson, I record yourself doing a pitch and you listen to yourself, would I buy from me? And would I be really, engrossed in what I'm saying? So then you make the adjustments. What do I need to do? And keep recording yourself after each time. So I need to raise my voice a bit. And there's some things that I say. There's something I love to say, the dramatic pause. That's when I stop just at that point to grab your attention. It's like, is he stuck? What's happening? It gets your attention and just raising your voice. So sometimes you may be talking and people may be watching their watch, and like teachers would sometimes do, especially in Trinidad, is like, and so, and when you do that, the kids who are making mischief tend to stop, and it's like, so I don't know if they did that in the States, but that was a strategy in Trinidad for sure, raising your voice, and that gets your attention. So different things and strategies you can definitely use when you're listening to, as I said, spark those neurons in the brain so that you always have your audience engaged and they're never falling asleep.
That's great. I mean, just fantastic recommendations for that. And of course, if you're on Zoom, we're not on Zoom today. We're using the fabulous StreamYard, but you can record your Zoom session as long as everybody's okay with it.
That's right, and play it back.
Yeah, really, really helpful.
I still do that today, Alan. I still do that today, Al. I mean, yeah. I always look back at my recordings of my voice ads and say, okay, I need to adjust this, adjust that,
Yeah, you're true. You've really done a great job studying this subject, and I love the material you have. I love what you say about even reading a story to your child. So important, something to think about, right? If your child is not really wanting to hear a nighttime story, think about the voices, think about the acting. That's just amazing stuff. It's good stuff. So, Daya, what do you want people to do? How do they reach out to you? How do we do business with Daya and help us out with our speech pattern?
Well, certainly you can reach out to me via Facebook at this point in time. You can go to Vocalize Us at Facebook, send me a message. It comes straight to my phone. That's a direct setup. And you can also go on LinkedIn for business people who are on LinkedIn. You can check me out, linkedin.com. Al has it on the screen, Daya Ottley. And on LinkedIn, I have a lot of my training tips and videos. Definitely, it's a nice representation of different tips. And certainly you can do that. And then I'll tell you the next step one time. But just go straight to those two sites right now that I have active. I'm working on my own webpage to get that live. So that's going to be ready very soon, where I'll have my podcast show on there as well. So look out for that. That's coming very soon now.
Well, and there's the podcast. And where will we be able to find that on all the platforms? Where's the first place it's going to pop up? Is it going to be on iTunes?
Yeah, I'm working on that. It's still brand new, so I'm going to iron that out. I don't want to say yet exactly for sure, but I'm going to definitely do that. It's going to start off as a video podcast at first, and then I'm going to roll it out.
Yeah. Well, let me know if I can help you with that, my friend, by all means.
Sure. No problem.
Guy, it has been an absolute pleasure having you here today from Trinidad. You are my first guest from Trinidad, by the way. So if I had a bell to ring, I'd ring it. I don't, but that's incredible. And I think, as I said to Simon Hare, who you know from Great Britain, I think my goal this year is to, now that, when the pandemic ends, is to go out and visit every single guest where they live. So I'm going to
that'd be awesome, man.
Yeah, that's great.
Give me some coconut water.
Oh, that'd be great. I cannot wait. That's fantastic. Well, Daya, listen, it's such a pleasure having you here today. I'm going to have you get backstage. Please stick around so I can say a proper goodbye. But for now, you're going to say goodbye to our audience. We'll talk again soon. Take care.
All right. Thanks. Nice having me, Al.
All right. Good to have you. Take care. Well, I got to tell you, I just learned a ton of reminders too. I mean, just such great material. The fact that you should record yourself and follow those steps, priceless, absolutely priceless. We are at a time and a point where your voice is so important, especially while we are still doing business the way we're doing it right now, with a lot of phone calls, a lot of Zoom, Google Meet, Microsoft Teams. Daya just pointed out so many things that people need to take a look at. Including get a good microphone. I just love that advice. That was fantastic advice. So good to have him on here. Hey, listen, we've had a fun start to the year so far. If you haven't seen this show, go back and watch it. This was a blast. My friend Jeff Baker talking about non-alcoholic beer. It was a great show. I'm inspired to color my hair like that after having Jeff on the show. So there's lots of good material out there for you to see. So go see Jeff's segment here on LinkedIn or YouTube Live or Facebook. Such a pleasure being with you here today. I'll be back again tomorrow with a guest who's going to talk about your brand. And then on Thursday, we're going to give you guys just a little bit of Disney love. You'll see what I'm talking about. So we'll see you here tomorrow. Going to be 1 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow, a little bit earlier. So join us here on the 3 platforms. I'll see you real soon. Thanks for being here.